golf tournament, so they're scrambling to put the final touches onto their golf tournament today. And football is still working out logistics for their trip for this weekend and just getting ready for, I guess it'd be the biggest game in several years for them. So they're getting ready for that. I've asked Stephen Hinkle if he would open up in prayer.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift that you've given us to lead these young men and women from the playing field, from the swimming pool, and the practice courts. God, I pray that whatever we do as administrators, as student athletes, that we best represent you and the university we compete for. Thank you again for this opportunity. Let this time be fruitful as we serve you well. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Stephen. All right. Who is ready to give me the mission statement? Crap, that's not the mission statement, okay? Anybody? Kirby? Okay, Kirby, come here. Yeah, Kirby. Come here, Kirby. No. All right, Kirby. Here's our rookie. Here's our rookie assistant coach who is about to give us our mission statement.
Hopefully. We build relationships which inspire transformation of student athletes through experiencing Christ and cultivating competitive excellence, equipping young men and women who are ready to serve or prepared to lead.
You kidding me?
You planted that.
No, I didn't. He did. Kudos. He did put a word in there that's not Kirby. Too young.
Yep.
Yeah. Not all of our athletes are young, but no. Just for having the courage to come up here, do it and do it right. I'm going to give you something that you really need. Another hat. There you go. All right. And thank you, Kirby. And I know there were many others of you. You just didn't have the courage to do it publicly. But I want you to keep learning. How you doing with it, Colleen?
Great.
That was a lie. So there it is. We build relationships which inspire transformation of student athletes through experiencing Christ and cultivating competitive excellence, equipping men and women who are ready to serve and prepared to lead. Remember, we talked about relationships. That was one of our key words at the beginning. And our relationships are going to be defined by love, encouragement. We're going to hold each other accountable. And we're going to listen to one another. We're going to use our ears and listen. Mike came and talked about what transformation is. And transformation was loving God and others and serving one another unconditionally. And through that, we're going to see transformation in our relationships. Victor Santa Cruz spoke last month about experiencing Christ. And before we can minister to the athlete, because that's what we want to do. That's the key component of our job, is to minister to the athlete. We have got to experience Christ first. And what are we doing to build ourselves up, feed into our lives, our walk with Christ? Appreciate Mike sharing that earlier, Victor sharing this with that last time. Today, we're going to talk about competitive excellence. And I don't know if there's anyone more equipped to talk about competitive excellence than our competitive men's basketball coach, Justin Leslie. So actually, it was probably a couple months ago, I went to Justin and said, hey, I'd like for you to speak on competitive excellence. Oh, great. I was hoping you'd give me that one, because he was ready. So, do you have a PowerPoint that you would like to present?
I just asked you about the picture.
Yeah, you want to? Oh, okay, great. So, Justin, I hand this over to you to tell us what competitive excellence looks like here at Azusa Pacific. And I do think even in competitive excellence, which is a common theme in college athletics, we do it differently here at Azusa Pacific.
All right. So, competitive excellence, huh? As I stand here, it's probably the first time in a long time my team's sub 500, and so I talk about winning and the role of winning. Whoops. Should have got that done on Saturday. It'd be a little different here. But, the thing for me with this is, I'm fiercely competitive. A lot of you guys know that. But probably most of you don't know why. All right, really kind of where it came from. So I'm just going to share a little bit about that. And then, and then also talking about winning. The Bible gives us examples of, do your work, unto the Lord, not for man. It talks about running the race to win, to build spiritual discipline. But, it's not specifically, something that's taught like winning and where it all fits. So the context what I'm going to use today are 3 different experiences and men that I've been around, and godly men that spoke into the role of winning and where I learned it from. And so kind of where it started with me, you know, I'm sure all of you in your sports, men and women, have athletes with dad issues, all right? And you know what can come with that, all right? My parents split when I was 2, you know, and I've never had a healthy relationship with my dad, all right? It's something that's, quite honestly, it's haunted me, and it wasn't until like my late 20s when I really kind of finally came to grips, you know, as I was really struggling as a father myself in my relationship with God, that I really went and fully addressed. It was through a men's group that I did at church, you know, going 5:30. I mean, Mike was there, you know, and it was through the process of doing the same men's group for about 5 years where I finally was able to kind of work through this and come to a healthy place spiritually. But I realized that early on, winning became the idol that I wanted to serve in order to find satisfaction and validation. It was, you know, I shared this with my team for the first time, you know, 2 weeks ago, but junior high, I was a bookie on my junior high campus. I can still deal cards from bottom of the deck and cheap as good as you could possibly imagine. I used to do football squares. We do football pool, you know, like Super Bowl, right? I went, I'm like, there's something to this. You know, we can do football pool, you know, and do the squares, right? Randomly draw the numbers, but I could randomly hide certain numbers to where my squares were the 3s and the 7s and the 0s, where I'd have a higher probability of winning. And so, you know, I made a couple $100 you know, every month in junior high, like doing quarter squares. You know, like honestly, like that was me, right? And so I fell in love with winning before anything else, not the process. I mean, I got suspended from school in 4th grade for, we had a class project where we were doing like simulating a town. And, you know, you had a mayor, you had, you know, the treasurer, so they had to issue currency so you could buy property, cars, all this stuff. We simulated a town in city government in 4th grade. I figured out what the currency was, and I went home and I made counterfeit money. And so I bought the town. Okay, so it turned out to where it became a trial. So we scrapped the town and we did a mock trial of the criminal in class in 4th grade. Like, I mean, like that's me. My sophomore year of high school, we went 3-18 in basketball. We beat the same bad team 3 times. And it's not that we didn't have bad players, but we had players like myself that were about just winning and bypassing what you're supposed to do to have success. And it was the first time, like I remember just going home after a game, I'm in the yard, I'm shooting, and like I'd just be in tears, you know, like why? What's the deal? What's the problem? And I couldn't understand it, just completely broken. Well, coach got fired, you know, he was a disaster, you know, his players were disasters too. But we got a new coach, and that coach started holding us accountable and calling our BS on every little thing and realizing what it takes to be successful. And same group of kids, we went 17-10 the next year and 24-5 the next. It's not like we didn't have talent, but we were a bunch of people just fell in love with doing things our way and not the right way. And so I knew when I chose college that I had offers to a lot of, you know, crappy D1s, but APU was starting to win. Right, and won 3 conference championships in a row, and I knew I couldn't go back to a loser. All right, and ultimately that's why I came here. I'd love to say it was because, you know, God spoke to me and it was the Christian education. No, it wasn't. It's because they won. All right, that's what brought me here to APU. So a little bit of my background there, and then so I'm going to talk about three different men and messages and lessons that I learned that kind of got me through this. And the first was my first day on campus here at APU. It was a Wednesday class, just like it is now. Had an accounting class at 7:30 in the morning. After accounting, you know, stand deal. I'm walking back onto Cougar Walk, and everybody like ants, it seemed like, are marching up the stairs to UTCC. And I looked at the guy next to me, like, where's everybody going? I said, dude, we gotta go to chapel. I'm like, chapel? You got chapel? Like, what's chapel? So I go up there, and John Wallace was talking, all right? And I don't remember everything from that first chapel that I went to, but he went through Colossians 3:23, work willingly And whatever you do, do as though you're working for the Lord rather than man. And he talked about, you know, in the line that I took from it that's, you know, was on my locker room for a number of years and what I subscribed to, he said, excellence honors God and mediocrity is a sin. And as I unpacked that, it just kind of reframed for me, okay, there's a reason why you win, you know. And when we talked about, it was kind of funny when I was interviewing with him for the job, you know, he's like, you know, you guys probably had similar things. It's not about wins and losses, and it's what you do there. I'm like, well, it's funny. Let me tell you back what I took from your first chapel, my first time I heard you speak. All right? And he was kind of like, but at the same time, I mean, I think it kind of got across that it's coming from that place of we want to serve the Lord with what He's blessed us with, that we're accountable to using those talents and abilities He's given to us to the fullest. And that's something that's just absolutely stuck with me. And the importance of valuing the process and not cutting corners. You know, that's honoring God. You know, that's something that's, you know, I love seeing athletes when they go out and they work hard, they do that little bit extra, they go back to touch that line all the way because they know we can get them faster, but we can't address someone whose character is going to be cut short in those moments, in those trials. And so that's what I took from John Wallace. The next was, you know, Bill Odell. Bill was my coach years. Kind of, in all honesty, that's the father figure that I didn't have in my life, was Bill. You know, he showed me what it was like to be a father. Like, honestly, I never had that. So seeing that from Bill, you know, I mean, he kind of has that place in my life. He's the one that led me to the Lord. I grew up in a kind of Christian home. Like, we'd go to church, but it was never my own. Bill's the one that led me to the Lord. And, you know, and he tells his story about APU and why he came here. You know, it wasn't until his job interview on campus with the team when he decided, I got to take this. He was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because he had a great gig at Millikan High School. He came to the interview and he saw a group of men that were losers, that were defeated, that were content with being average. And honestly, it broke his heart. And that's when, you know, you guys know Bill, the competitor that he is, many of you, he's like, no, forget that. I'm going to make these guys win. All right? And, you know, he talks about how, you know, we talked about this a lot. I mean, over the course of my time and years spent playing for Bill and working for him, how it's easy to be a good loser. You know, we've all, I mean, with my own kids, I see it now in youth sports. They lose a game or their team loses a game. All right, hey, get your heads up, shake their hands, and it's okay, right? Like, we get conditioned to being good losers, okay? But it's hard to be a good winner. It's harder to be a good winner and still model humility, to not be overtaken with pride, right? All things that the Bible talks at great length about, like winning the right way and winning, you know, in such a way that, you know, is honoring to God, I think is something that is truly special and transformational. And that was something that Bill really instilled in me, you know, and how being accountable to a high standard and achieving success, you know, with those, modeling those characteristics is, I think, one of the strongest platforms that we can have as a Christian school. When we go into, like, I remember as a player thinking, like, let's go kick the crap out of this team we're going to play, and then afterwards, let's make them wonder about what was different about us. Okay? Because eventually, you do it enough, they're going to start asking, what's different about these guys? And we're doing that here. You know, I mean, I look around at the different sports and coaches here, there is something different about us, and it's who we are as Christians in our faith, that when we go out and we win, okay, we do it the right way. We can go talk with that coach afterwards. Our players can interact with them. There's not some bitter fight with them, unless it's CBU. All right? Okay? But, you know what I mean? Like, it's healthy. Even in a lot of those times when we beat the snot out of them. Right? We can maintain those relationships, the level of respect, without being prideful, because, you know, we keep it all in perspective. And I think that speaks so powerfully to who we are in that platform that we have to make a difference. And I took that from Bill. That was something that he owned every day. And then here's the last one. All right? Yeah. Do you have that on there on the
Oh,
slide?
did you want it on there?
Yeah, I thought that's what I told you.
No, I emailed it to you. I didn't know you
Oh,
wanted
I
it
thought
on
you were
there.
the PowerPoint guy. You said I want to throw it in there. Oh, well. Never mind.
I
You
got
can come
that.
by, it's fine, it's fine.
Okay, sorry.
You can come by my office and see the picture, or go by Gary's. 2004, we did a fundraiser. John Wooden came and spoke here. And we got, we're like, of course, we're trying to make money, so we're like, we think he'd sign some stuff that we can auction off and make a little bit of money off of, and sure enough, he was. So Gary, Micah McDaniel, Jeff Rudder, myself, we go down to John Wooden's house, and we're expecting, some, no, it was like a condo, hadn't been touched in like 40 years, right? And we get in the parking lot in the back, and we call, so let us in, and you see through this curtain opens up in the back of like what looks like it'd be an apartment complex around here. Curtains open, and there's John Wooden standing in the window, So we go in, we go up to his apartment, or his condo up there, and we get to spend, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours. I mean, it seemed like an eternity there with him. And, I don't remember every detail, all right, of what happened. It was one of the most amazing days and experiences that I ever had. But some things that I took away: his love for his family, his love for his players, okay, his strong commitment to his faith and values that were instilled by his parents, and that those people, and the people care about those values and who he was because he won. And he didn't make any bones about it. I mean, it's John Wooden. This is the gold standard of coaching excellence. I mean, he's no fool. I mean, he'd love to sit there and, beat his chest. No, it's all the pyramid of success, all the speaking engagements where I'm talking about life and these other areas. And, it's because he won. That was his credibility. And that's what validated all the other messages. And so it's a fine line that we walk, where we can't sacrifice who we are, our faith, and what we're about. But at the same time, people listen to winners, all right? They listen to people who do things the right way, and they want to model that. And I think that, we have the opportunity to be successful, to go out and win, and have people model us. And I think that's how we can truly be transformational, not just with our athletes, but with folks that are trying to keep up with us. They're going to try and do it the right way as well, because they see that's the best way. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin talked about that day in Coach Wooden's home, and it was a phenomenal day. And we were there for about 4 hours. And Coach Wooden controlled the talk most, which was great because we wanted to hear him. The house was filled with pictures throughout there of all his people that he knew. And he said, walk around, take a look at the house, and so we did it at the condo. It was a condo. But I remember there was a wall about as wide as this door, this spot right here. There was a door and then into a room, just like this. And from top to bottom were pictures, framed pictures of different people. And at the bottom was this little 5x7 picture. He's in the middle, and he's got his arms around General Schwarzkopf. And so this is a few years after Operation Desert Storm, but General Schwarzkopf, a big deal. The other side was Tiger Woods. And I thought to myself, if that were us, we would have blown that into a 16x20, and we would put it in the middle of our living room. But here's John Wooden, who had a boatload of pictures like that. Just put it down there at the bottom. And that was a wonderful afternoon. We talked about a lot of things, and we're trying to ask questions. And I think we're kind of nervous about this too. And so we ran out of stuff. After about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I think we ran out of things to say. And he goes, would you like for me to read some poetry? We hate poetry. We go, yeah, read poetry. So he gets out Schwinn Nader, one of his former players who wrote poetry. He started reading poetry to us. And we're like, this is the best. But Justin alludes to something I'll never forget, and I talk about this quite a bit where places I go. I asked him a question. I don't remember what the question was, but he said, let's be honest, Gary. You wouldn't care what I have to say had I not won 10 national championships. Or he didn't say one. Had I not coached 10 national championship teams. He goes, my message today isn't any different than it was back in the 40s and 50s before UCLA ever won a first national championship. He goes, my message is the message my dad taught me. It's a message of the Bible. And it is a very powerful message about valuing people and how the relationships you build with them and how you can speak into it. But he said, but you listen to me because I win, because I won. And he was right. And what Justin is saying is right. When we do well, it gives us a platform to speak into people's lives. And it gives us a platform to speak relevantly about who Jesus Christ is. Because we're seen as credible people in our area of expertise. And so the young men and women we bring in here that may not know Christ, but when they see that you're excellent in what you do, they listen. They listen and they give credibility to it. And it was a wonderful, wonderful time. As Justin was talking, and I was thinking about, we're really well liked in the Pac West. Now, it doesn't mean people don't want to beat us and whatnot, but there are people in the Pac West who root for us. If they can't win, they want a Zoo Pacific to win. And I get those, my colleagues email and say, hey, I really want you guys to win. And I'll be honest with you, there's another school in the Pac West they don't do that for. And when we're playing them, we get phone calls and emails, hey, I hope you win tonight. Hope you beat this team. And people look at us, and yes, we're a little bit of the gold standard in the Pac West of how we do things. And yes, people want to beat us. And going back to what Justin said, what I've always wanted is I want us to beat those teams and for them to say, I want to play you again. Because you do the sport right. It's fun competing with you. I hate losing to you, but I want to play you again at Zoo Pacific because you do it right. And I appreciate Justin saying that. I want to encourage you with something. I got an email Monday morning. I flew over to Colorado for the football game. That was a tough game. Playoffs are on the line. And we're going in for the game-winning field goal, and it gets blocked and returned for a touchdown, and there goes what we think of the playoffs. And we felt like they slipped right through our hands. And I watched Victor speak to his team, very encouraging, very appropriately, with an appropriate perspective. I then saw him talk to alumni afterwards, thanking them for their enthusiasm and their encouragement for coming over to the game. Very genuine, authentic on Victor's part. And then he ran across the field and found the opposing quarterback, who had a very good game, shook his hand and congratulated him, because for Colorado Mesa by winning, they knew they were in the playoffs. I thought, Victor, and I told him, you handled that very, very well. Then I got this email Monday morning. Mr. Pond, I had been on the Colorado Mesa chain crew for 25 years. I thought that was kind of weird, but then he goes, and officiating high school sports for 35 years. Just a note to let you know how much I appreciate Coach Santa Cruz's sideline demeanor. It was the best I've ever encountered in all my years in sports. He got his point across to his players and the officials in a calm, rational, respectful manner. It was fun to be on his sideline. I was happy to see that your team made the playoffs and wish them the best. I will be rooting for your team because of Coach Santa Cruz's sideline demeanor. He was a credit to your university, and parents should be proud to have Coach Santa Cruz in their sons' lives. And you know what? That's not just Victor. That's all of you. I get those emails frequently about you guys traveling through airports or in hotels, or how you were on airplanes, or how you are visiting places. That's that competitive difference that Justin is talking about. And we're going to win, but we're going to do it differently, and people are going to see that, and that allows us to speak into their lives. Appreciate it. I did not solicit this. The guy said it on his own, but it's not unique to the messages we give. It's a wonderful mission statement. I think it captures what we're trying to do, and I want us to keep embracing it. Any comments about anything Justin said or about the mission statement? We got a couple more we're going to tackle about following and leading, but any comments from anybody? All right, let's transition into just some updates about what's going on in the department. Nothing overly significant. We got some games coming up this weekend. Joe, I want you to stand up and tell everybody what's going on, the significance of everything that is going on.
All right, before I do that, so you didn't solicit that one, so that tells me that you do
No,
actually solicit changes for
Hey,
you.
tell us how great we are. No. That's true. That was
Hey,
probably a
well,
bad line.
just guys who've done the chain gang for 25 years.
Yeah.
No, football, obviously, playoff game this weekend. It starts at 10 o'clock local time. There is a live stream.
We just confirmed this morning, there will be a watch party on campus. It'll be Upper Turner North. Not a huge area, but it'll seat maybe 100 people. Not sure how many kids will still be on campus. I know a lot of them are going home early for Thanksgiving, but we will have that for them. Cross country also has a representative at Nationals. Eileen Strassling will be running for Saturday morning in St. Leo, Florida. Do you know what time there's?
It's 6:15 local time, 9:15 in the park.
Okay. And I think they do have a video stream of that too.
We'll be in North, yeah.
You'll watch party. Same place for the watch party.
And Bethany, you and Preston are going back, correct?
Correct.
Is Preston?
Preston left this morning to
Yeah.
do community stuff, but we take off tomorrow.
Volleyball is home. They've won 4 in a row. They're home Friday and Saturday night, playing Dominican and Cal Baptist. So one of those opportunities that I think Justin was talking about to show competitive excellence against one of those schools.
And I think they may be playing for third place, right? And they are playing very well right now. So big matches this weekend.
Swim is on the road, UC Santa Cruz. Men's basketball is home opener against Cal State San Marcos Saturday night. And women's basketball is traveling up to Bellingham, Washington this weekend.
Tournament with Western Washington, San Francisco.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. As you know, football is playing University of Sioux Falls Saturday at 10 a.m. our time, noon there. It's supposed to be like 31 degrees and flurries. Sioux Falls is coached by Jed Stugart. For those of you who might remember Jed, Jed played football here under Coach Milhan and coached with Coach Milhan. They're 11-0, ranked number 4 in the country. They're everything and then some with that 11-0 record. Football team is leaving here 8 o'clock Friday morning. Mike Barnett came up with an idea this morning. I said, Mike, why don't you present it to everybody?
Yeah, and Paul was gonna actually present it, but Paul Stackers, Coach and I were chatting last week, just what we can do to support like one another, you know, from program to program, and of course, we can't do this every week, but for a national, when going and representing, you know, the university and national, we're talking about how can we come alongside them well. They're leaving at 8 o'clock on Friday from the locker rooms over there by the football stadium. And so we want to extend out to any coaches to let your athletes know, you know, track and baseball are available. So we're going to show up at about 7:45-ish. No true agenda. I mean, I think they'll have a couple buses or whatever piecing out. I don't know if it's high-fiving them before they get on the bus, but basically our teams, as many as can, and coaches just go and say, great job. I mean, we're no dummies. I mean, at least track is figured out. You know, the more no pressure based basketball, but the more football and basketball, the better they do, we all benefit from it, you know. And so, not that any of us have ever been bitter, but it's just a thing that we need to start respecting each other's programs, but understand that it's a great opportunity for athlete to athlete to say, hey, I know what you guys are doing, congratulations, go Cougs. So, this Friday, I mean, I know they leave at 8 a.m. from what I understand.
We
So
roll
they're-
out at 8 a.m.
Yeah, so the goal is to get up and over the bridge and over there and no agenda, just Victor doesn't know what's happening. I'm just hoping it's gonna be good, but it'll be a surprise. But you can talk about it too, but let your athletes know, the more, I think that'd be a cool thing to start.
I agree with you. Thank you, Mike. I think that's a great idea. It is a cool idea to start. Let's do this other times if we can, but I know the football team would really appreciate for those athletes who are still around here to their peers, their fellow competitors would appreciate it. I know the coaches appreciate would appreciate the just. It would strike them greatly as they travel into hostile territory. So thank you, Mike. What else we got going on? Diane is out this Monday and Tuesday, so plan accordingly. She will be back the day before Thanksgiving, but that means plan accordingly. If you need meal money and you're traveling next week during Thanksgiving and stuff, we need to get that in soon if it's not too late. What do we need to plan for? What do we need to plan for with you being gone, Diane?
Don't forget, all the time cards are due on Monday, so it would help carry out tremendously if everyone has, you and your staff, processing those on time and making sure that there's no meal break penalties showing up. That would float Gary's boat. I have petty cash, but it's too late to really order meal money, but I think most of the current teams, in-season teams have taken care of most of that. But if you need recruit money or anything, which I have 3 teams of you that I'm seeing tomorrow morning to pass out some of that. But I have a fair amount of petty cash to help us out so we don't have to call for too many emergency issues with the business office. So just let me know what you need.
Okay. Speaking of not being around, Janice Ferris is coming up on her last day, which is this Friday, after 18 years?
She-
17 or
no.
18 years?
Well, actually, she and I thought it was 20 that she and I had worked together, but it's really like 19. But she worked several years in hospitality services and also SFS before she came over to us. So I think she's like 22 or 23 years.
She's one of the last ones who made that transition from East Campus over here all those years ago. Her last day is Friday, and there's going to be a celebration for her on Friday. Diane, can you speak into that as to when and where?
I believe they're gonna have something in our office later tonight, and I believe it's like 10 to 12. They will have some breakfast type foods. I'm gonna bring some chocolate brownies, because I think she really likes that. She doesn't ever like, she doesn't want a reception line kind of a thing, but, I'm sure that she would appreciate a hug goodbye, or can't promise she won't have any tears. It's gonna be quite a change.
Yeah.
It's not a day I'm looking forward to either.
Her husband retired, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
she's
but
retiring with him.
she's had some health issues, so they're retiring a little bit earlier because she needs the rest.
Yeah.
She's been a very special person to all of us and working hard, but they have a great replacement for her also, so, we'll all be well taken care of. She'll be starting December 1st, I believe.
Okay.
With that, if any of you guys haven't done an ornament from Stacy, you come grab one and do that before you leave.
Thank you. Yep. Appreciate that. I think we already mentioned the time cards.
And those ornaments are in your mailbox or
No,
in?
Stacy
Oh, did you
grabbed
pull
the
them out?
extras to pull them out.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, we already mentioned the time cards. That's fine. Updated compliance and development positions. Compliance committee, we are looking for obviously, as you know, the new compliance person. We're calling Director of Compliance and Academic Support. On the search committee is Mike Barnett, Justin Leslie, April Hoy, Victor Santa Cruz, Joe Reich, and myself. I was forgetting me. We have met a couple of times, and we are beginning to zero in on several candidates that show us some great promise. I am encouraged. I think we might be able to have someone here by December 15th. We're excited about a few of our candidates that we're going to start doing some background checks on here real quick. I guess references, not background checks. And then narrow down, we'll meet again next Monday and begin to narrow down who we want to bring in to the campus. Development position, Diane, same thing I told you last time, advancement has a job description, they've reviewed it, and they want to meet with me on Friday. But I'm going to be out of town on Friday, so I'm going to postpone it to next week. But we're going to meet next week, and hopefully next week I'll be able to begin to put together a search committee on that as well. That'll be a mix of athletics people and advancement people for those positions. While we're talking about compliance, I want to say publicly how much I appreciate the work of Callie. She has done a super job. I deeply appreciate your attitude, and I deeply appreciate your hustle, your energy, your willingness to get after it and learn and ask questions and provide great answers for us and great things. And she, I'll be at the conference office called me, and they were worried that we were having a part-time kind of a graduate assistant take over. And I said, we're okay. We're under control. Relax. And Kelly, you have gone above and beyond. And one of the reasons that everyone's so nervous is we're right in the middle of signing period. And she was super. She was running all over campus to get things signed, to get some NLIs out at the last minute. And I think we got it done without a hitch. And she did the academic search, the financial search, all of that stuff, and just did a great job. So, Callie, you did a wonderful job. I just want to say that for everybody. Thank you very much. We appreciate what you're doing. What else are we going to talk about? Oh, academic calendar. Just want you to be aware. In fact, I'm missing a meeting right now. I'm supposed to be in a meeting at this moment. Talking about the academic calendar for 17-18. Two things I want you to be aware of. we're gonna have a Monday start next year. Instead of, we've always started on a Wednesday, you know, orientation went around to that Monday, Tuesday, and then we start on Wednesday. Next year, we're starting on a Monday, August 26th, I wanna say, whatever that last Monday in August is, the Monday before Labor Day, we're gonna start classes. Now, some of us, Aaron, April, and I, have already started looking at, okay, what's that gonna look like for our own orientation for compliance in sports medicine, and we're starting to put that schedule together. We're gonna pass that by some of you coaches before we get there. But I just want you to know, we're going with a Monday start next year. I wanna say that's 90% locked in. It needs academic cabinet approval, but they will approve it. We're very confident. And then they're gonna give the students the entire week of Thanksgiving off, moving forward. There will be no classes Monday, Tuesday. Are there classes on Wednesday now? I think now we don't have, yeah, so they're gonna give the Monday, Tuesdays off. Yeah, and so I just want you to be alert to that. For the fall sports, that'll save us a little bit financially with meals. You know, we'll start meals. For basketballs, we're gonna have to pick up meals for that Monday, Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. But I just want you to be aware that that is coming down the pike and probably announced. I don't know if they'll get announced before the Christmas break, but I think probably when we get right back, you'll hear the announcement about the schedule for next year. Any questions about that? Okay. Nate, would you stand up for a second? Hey, come on up here, Nate. Nate knows why it's coming.
Mission statement.
Can anyone say what's wrong with Nate?
He's Hawaiian?
I said that one up, didn't I?
That shirt on.
He doesn't have enough gear.
That's his problem. Yeah,
Oh,
both of you.
Under Armour. What?
Is it Under Armour too? He obviously doesn't have enough gear because he's using the wrong logo. We can't use this logo. And it's 15 or 16.
Wow, that's
17,
15, 16.
16. So we're okay. It's okay. Just remind you, please don't use this logo. That we have an AP. Thanks for being my model, Dave.
Nike symbol's fake too.
So anyway, just remind you not to use that logo. And it's out there on the internet, and Joe and Stephen are working real hard to pull it off the internet because people find it, use it. But that never quite was an official logo for his. What? He was easier, his was bigger to see. So. And actually, he used that when it probably was semi-legal.
It was legal.
5, 6 years ago. All right. Last thing I just want to talk about before I let you go. 2 weeks ago, I was in Indianapolis for. I'm not going to talk real long, but I just want to give you some parameters or some thoughts. I was in Indianapolis for the Common Ground Think Tank 2. It's where we bring LGBT community and people of faith together to discuss this issue in college athletics. I talked about with some of our head coaches about a week ago, but I wanted to share with everybody here. The NC2A yesterday put out a release about this conference and this meeting. 2 years ago, the conference was designed by 5 lesbian atheists. This year, this time it was designed by the same 5 plus 3 evangelical Christians, of which I was one of them, the athletic director from Holton College in New York, plus a lady from Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And we put together the agenda and moderating of it and all of that. We brought together about 35 people. I would say probably 20 LGBT members, 15 Christians, evangelical Christians. And we spent 2 days together going over the issue of LGBT and Christianity, really, it's really about Christianity. And there were some advocates there from the LGBT side, some people who've taken some real hard shots at Azusa Pacific and Wheaton College. I'll tell you from the Christian side, the athletic directors or athletic personnel from Wheaton, Cedarville, Lee University, Azusa Pacific, Point Loma, and then some Christians at state schools like East Carolina, historically black school, I can't remember the name of it, were there. There are also advocates from the LGBT side who have put Christian schools in their crosshairs and said, you know, we're going to get them out of the NC2A or get them to change their policy, whatever. And it was interesting to be sitting at tables with those people who have written some pretty strong things and now go eyeball to eyeball. And as the Vice President of Inclusion for the NC2A said, we are humanizing this issue right now when you have to go eyeball to eyeball with people. It was a very good 2 days, pretty powerful. I need to tell you, the day before I left, that article finally came out that I've been telling you about for over a year. Remember I told you that we had a gay athlete that it was going to come out? It finally came out the day I left for this conference. And when I got to Indiana, a couple of people on the inside of this article told me it was specifically released. They were holding on to it for my arrival in Indianapolis to put me in a hot spot, and for it to come up and be a point of contention in our conference. I'll tell you real quickly the background of the story. We had a football player here in the fall of 2014. Last time I went to this conference, or the first time I ever had it. Football player, freshman, came from a pretty strong Christian home. Came here and had a long time been wrestling with his identity and these feelings he had. Didn't know what was going on. And once he got away from home, came here and started asking different people different questions and trying to figure out what was going on with him and who he was and what he was. And he came into a circle of people on the LGBT side and said, come on in, we'll counsel you, we'll help you, we'll mentor you, we'll bring you along, and we'll even help you tell people. And so he ended up going on site and talking about him coming out as gay. And it was not so much a shot at the Zeus Pacific, it is a little bit directly, but it was more a shot at Christianity and our cultural ideas of masculinity. And if those two things, Christianity and our cultural ideas of masculinity, oppress people with same-sex attraction. The articles really had, I'm not sure it's had a ripple effect. I've really heard very little about it. I've asked Victor about it. Victor says his guys really haven't talked about it. The young man was only here for one semester. He got hurt. He was a walk-on player. He got hurt and transferred out and is now at the University of Hawaii, and now 2 years later has gone public with it. And I don't know what's going on with his family and their reception of it. I know the family is a pretty strong Christian family. At the conference that I was at, some of the advocates said to me, I had to speak one night before everybody, and they said, Gary, tell us what you think about the article. And I said, this was my thought. The young man's name was Andre. I said, I wish Andre could have come inside the Zeus Pacific Circle and said, this is me, this is what I'm struggling, this is what I'm struggling with, and these are the feelings I'm having. I said, I wish he would have come internal so we could walk along and do life with him, instead of going outside feeling like he had to announce outside. And I said, not that we would have ever not announced it, but I just felt like he could have, I wish he would have come to me or Victor or one of his assistant coaches and said, hey, coach, Mr. Pine. I said, that's the kind of environment I would like. A very outspoken gay coach on the Division I level who was in the room with us said, Gary, this is what I would suggest. He says, do you meet with the teams each year? And I go, yeah, I try to meet with all teams every year. He goes, do you have an expectation list? I go, I don't have an expectation list. I have a file called Expectations of Student Athletes. And I read through that file when I meet with the athletes. He says, what do you have, 7, 8, 9 bullets? I go, yeah. He goes, add a 10th one. He says, add in there, says, you will not tolerate, Zeus Pacific will not tolerate abusive language toward gender, toward race, toward physical disabilities, toward sexual identity orientation, toward looks. You just slip that in there. Because a person who's struggling with their sexual identity will hear that and that will resonate with them, and they will be more likely to go internal to talk and say, hey coach, this is what's going on with me. Hey coach, let me tell you about some things in my life. I want Zeus Pacific to be a place where we can dialogue about this and we can talk about it. I'm not an expert on this. I'm learning a lot. And I will say that I have probably changed. I told them at the conference, my position on the subject hasn't changed, but my perspective of the people has drastically changed. And I have great compassion and care for for people in the LGBT community, or people who are trying to figure out their identity. And so one of the things I want us to do is to be able to dialogue. When I talked to the head coaches a couple weeks ago, one of the coaches said, Gary, I get it. We want to do this. We need tools. How do we approach it? How do we handle a student who approaches us with this subject matter? So I'm hoping in a couple of weeks in December that one of Bill Fiala, a director of our University Counseling Center, come in and talk to us. He does these presentations on the subject matter, because I know somebody said, Gary, I want to know how to handle it. How do I dialogue? How do I talk about it? Particularly personally and in corporately, where Zoo specific would want us to dialogue about it. But I know for me, my personal goal for our department is, and I know LGBT issues are maybe a little bit more prevalent in athletics than in other areas. I want our athletes to feel like they can talk about it. We're not going to celebrate act behavior, but man, we're going to talk about it and figure out, you know, what's the best counsel? What's the best route? What can we do? How can we support you? How can we encourage you? How can we help you with your family? As I've learned in this conference, there's multiple layers of coming out. I now have several friends in the gay community. We talked about coming out. I had a great, on the flight back from Indianapolis, I sat next to him and said, tell me about how you came out. And this guy told the pastor's wife. That's where he felt safe. Then he told a friend. Then he told, before he ever told his parents. And he said it took him about 6 years to get from that first person he told to the last person he told, and then it took probably another 3 years before he went public. It cost him his job, he got fired. We learned that a lot of kids who are struggling with who they are go on the internet first to find an anonymous person that they feel somewhat safe, that they're not going eyeball to eyeball with, that that'll be the first person they say, I think I'm gay. And depending on that response coming back from the internet, is how they will then go and tell the next person, the next person, the next person. And suicide is a real thing amongst young kids. I've learned that in this subject matter, it's a 10 to 15 year journey on this. From the time that you first realize you've got some feelings to the point where you say, this is who I am, world. And we oftentimes get those young men and women for about 3-4 years in very close settings in terms of we're coaching them. So how are we going to dialogue? Let's not chase them off. Let's say, man, you're here, let's do life. Let's talk about this and figure this out. And in a Christian perspective and in a healthy perspective. But the numbers of suicide for LGBT teens or teens struggling with sexual identity is frighteningly high. And I want us to be a place that represents Christ very well, that represents biblical truth, and it dialogues about this. So I wanted to share that with you. With that, when I mentioned suicide, I also thought I should mention this. We're 8 days into a new president, and it has stirred the dust out there. And I will tell you, I will be very public. I did not vote for a president. I did vote, I just didn't vote for a president. I left that blank. For me personally, Gary Pine, I could not put my name to any of the 4 candidates that was on the ballot. That's me. I want you to vote as you vote your conscience, and I'm going to support you on that. But obviously, the election of Donald Trump has stirred a great deal of angst in our country. And we've seen a little bit on our campus. There has been talk going on our campus, not as wild as what we're seeing in cities and other campuses. But if your athletes are talking about it, if your athletes are troubled by it, I would not discourage the dialogue. I do not want to enable bad thinking. Sometimes I think we as a country allow that to happen too much. But there are people of ethnic minorities who are legitimately nervous. There are people who come out of abusive homes and abusive fathers. And they hear some of the language that Trump says, and it clicks in their mind, language that they heard from a father in their home, and it makes them nervous. I got an email Tuesday night. No, it was Monday night. I got an email from a friend from my church who said she had 2 friends commit suicide because Donald Trump was elected. And I'd heard that. I'd heard the stories that they were reporting that.
That's what my daughter says too.
Yeah.
She had a number of heart donors from suicides that were right after the election.
So I had heard that on CNN. Thought,
That's pretty
come on,
scary.
that's crazy. Then I got an email Monday night from a friend who says, yeah, I have 2 friends who just committed suicide. And they were trying to process it. So there's angst out there. I want you to give your student athletes opportunity to talk about it if they need to talk about it. Center of Student Reconciliation, SRC, Student Reconciliation, the office right across from 1899, run by Aaron
Student
Enos.
Center for Reconciliation and
Thank you.
Diversity.
Thank you, SCRD. That'd be a great place for some of your athletes to go if this is something that's really, they're really wrestling with, so. And the Women's Resource Center as well. I do believe we need to support our country. I believe we need to support our government. I think we need to support our president, but I do understand the angst that's out there. All that being said, any questions or comments before we depart? Anything that, I know I've just dropped a little bit of a heavy on you for the last 10 minutes. Anything that you guys would like to comment on? Or any other questions about what's going on in the department? Because that is my last comment for the meeting. Anything? We're all good? All right, thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Stop recording.